I had a 15% of survival. I was 2 months in the hospital, over a week on intensive care. And the first thing that I said when I woke up is, I don't want to die anymore. I was born here in the Netherlands. However, my dad was an expat, so we moved around a lot. And that made me very curious about cultures, about changing life, about looking into anything that is different than normal. And within Sony, I did a whole career, and I started there all the way at the bottom at sales support and climbed my way up into a European function in strategy and management. Is it something that you really chose yourself? Are you just doing it on autopilot? And are you happy? Once you're there, you can see the whole galaxy, and I've never seen so many stars in my life. And again, that's one of those small moments that I thought, this is really why I'm living. This feels like I'm alive. People need to step outside of the environment that they are in to experience new things, because everything is feeding that monster. There's a process, there's a system, there are tools there, there's enough money to have that, there's meetings, there's people that can explain you, etc. But that also takes away a lot of creativity. But it doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody knows what you're doing. I remember when I was organizing events for Sony for 400 people across Europe in one location. They have no idea what is on the agenda, what is coming next, etc. So why does it really matter? People, it's all inside your head, and just do what you want to do. That's the most crucial part. Who is in the meeting? And do you have a role? If you don't have a role and it doesn't have a benefit, then tell your manager, I'm not going to be in here because I have other work to do, which is more value add. Right person, right place. So are you really doing the job that you love? If you do the job that you love, then you'll do it with passion and you'll do it correct. You're trying to get people to get connected, to help each other out, to make them grow as a person in their company, getting networks together. That's the same that you should do in a business, right? You should just have a collaboration. I'm not your boss, no, we're colleagues. You know my story, you've heard everything. I think there's two parts of my story. One is the operational detox and the other one is the keynote speaking. I'm very passionate about the keynote speaking, sharing my story, sharing my life. And I would love people to reach out for any stage, if it's for 20 people, for 500 people, for 5,000 people, whatever. If you're different kinds of organizations, if you're a corporate, but maybe you're working at the police or you're in a university and you think it's necessary there, just call me and I'll show up.
Hello. What's your name and what do you do?
Hi, I'm Oscar. Currently I'm on a sabbaticals, creating my own startup. Well, 2 startups to be honest, but we'll get into that later. I was born here in the Netherlands. However, my dad was an expat, so we moved around a lot. And that made me very curious about cultures, about changing life, about looking into anything that is different than normal. So we lived in Germany for 3 years, we lived in the States for 3 years, and then we moved back to the Netherlands because my parents thought I needed a stable sort of foundation to have for my studies, etc. I studied commercial economics, international management, and that made me also go abroad to the UK to do 1 year of abroad studies. And after my studies, I didn't really want to work. So I was a flight attendant for 2 years. And I traveled the world a lot more just to understand a bit of, well, socializing, but also getting into seeing what life really is about. But after 2 years, I thought, okay, it's nice, but I can't really go further. I was very ambitious at the time, and I thought, okay, I'll become purser, I do something in the office, etc. However, the agency, the airline agency, works very differently. You're just a number, and when your number is up, you get into the next level. So it's nothing about being ambitious or performing or whatever. It's just if your number is up, you can try, and then if you're good enough, then you get that. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to wait for that because that's going to take years. And then I started at a small time management company, which is called Impulses. It's a more franchise organization, and they teach other companies how to manage their time well. And that's if you do anything in email marketing or whatever. And they just try to explain how to become more effective within business. But the culture there wasn't really my thing. It wasn't very driven organization. And I was, as I said, already very ambitious. So after half a year, I stopped there and I went back to one of the companies that I applied for, which was called Sony, or still is called Sony. And that was around 18 years ago. And within Sony, I did a whole career. And I started there all the way at the bottom at sales support and climbed my way up into a European function in strategy and management. So yeah, that's a bit about me. I like a lot of things. I like good food. I like musicals. I don't like sports, but I have to do sports. And I really like to travel. And we'll come to that later as well for the travel.
Which current startups are you building right now?
So I have two startups that I'm building. One is Ops Detox, that is called Operational Detox, which is a sort of consultancy company, which I'm building because of my years of experience within Sony. And that is a consultancy that just comes into a company, big or small, so mainly corporates because they're a bit stuck, but startups as well because they're growing so fast and they don't have correct systems in place, processes in place, etc. So what I do a sort of scan with them, and in that scan I can detect where are the issues. And I have 6 different modules, and they are from meeting structure, or how do I run meetings, to communication, decision making, reporting, psychological safety. So there's a lot of these different modules that I can deliver, and I'm expanding along the way. So there are 6 core models that I do right now. And the module is between 6 or 8 weeks that I can really detox the organization. So I'll come in, I'll have interviews with everybody, I'll look at the structure, see how everything is being done. And then from there, I will give an advice. This is what I would change, this is how I would structure it, etc. And that's when it stops, but I can also do it additionally, I can do the full implementation. But my core is really to come in, do the consultation, give them advice and say, this is how you should do it. The other side of the business, which is sort of linked to it, is a keynote speaking. And that keynote speaking is me telling my life story. So I have a very impactful life story, which sometimes scares people. But it's all about breaking free from autopilot. And the keynote itself is called Surviving Isn't the Same as Living, Tracks of Time. And why tracks of time and why surviving isn't the same as living is because some time ago, 23 years ago, I wasn't in a very mental state of mind, and there was a lot of things happening, etc. And at that time, I decided to step out of life. And that was a very dark period in my life. And I just didn't see any way out. So I was thinking, okay, why do people like me? They don't like me. What do I have to deliver in this world, etc. And in the end, I thought, okay, I don't like this world. I don't want to be here anymore. No, nobody cares if I'm here, yes or no. And that's when I decided to jump in front of a train. So it was very, very impactful. It was a very dark day in my life and for my parents and my friends. I had a 15% of survival. I was 2 months in the hospital, over a week on intensive care. And the first thing that I said when I woke up is, I don't want to die anymore. Not I want to live, but I don't want to die anymore. And that's when there was a turning point for me. And that's the story that I tell within my keynotes, talking about, are we choosing our own lives? Are we happy with it? Are we doing things on autopilot, yes or no? And I want to tell people to stand still, think about their life. If it's in business or in personal, is it something that you really chose yourself? Are you just doing it on autopilot? And are you happy? And I realized after 17 years at Sony when I signed, the day I signed, I arrived back at home and I was whistling. And I remember that I only whistle when I'm really happy. And I thought, okay, when was the last time I really whistled? And that was years ago. And you see, it's like you're a frog which is being boiled, right? You sit in the cold water and it heats up. You don't feel that you're losing your grip anymore. And that's the same what I had in Sony. I was still happy with my function, but somehow something was missing. And along the way, I missed that whistle. And that whistle came back the day I signed, and I was like, I chose my life again. And from there, I went into sabbatical. So yeah, that's the two things that I'm doing. One is the Ops Detox, which is operational efficiency for companies. And the second one is a keynote speaking about surviving isn't living, breaking free from autopilot, which can be in a personal life, but also for the companies.
What was the thing that you most appreciated after that experience?
That's a good question. It's very difficult because you would think at that time it would have such a huge impact on your life. And somehow it did, but it's the small moments that you really appreciate life when it happens. I'll give you a few examples. One example is when I was in the hospital. I was there for 2 months, as I said, but the hospital food isn't that good. Well, at that time, maybe it's a lot better nowadays, but this was 23 years ago. And I was in a room together with another man, and his daughter came by. And he wanted some different kind of food. And this was the LUMC in Leiden, next to the station. And in the station, there's a lot of different food options. And he said, well, bring me something back and also bring something for the guy next to me. And I was like, okay, yeah, well, I'd love to, thank you. And she came back with a Burger King Whopper. And I was like, oh, man. And I still remember that to this day, that was such a big moment. And these small moments, they really have such a huge impact. And that's where I also say, go back to what is your whistling moment. I have another example. I was doing for a charity run, the Antwerp Banjul Challenge. So everybody knows the Dakar Challenge probably. This is where you have big cars and they do a race from, I think, from Paris to Dakar. And we did the sort of alternative version, which is buying a car which is maximum 1,000 euros and driving it to Dakar. And then a little bit further to Gambia, and then they will sell the car, and whatever it is sold for, that money goes to a local charity. But during that trip, you come in lots of different places. And one of the places where we stopped was in the middle of the Sahara. And there's nothing there, right? So there's really nothing. So there was only sand, sand, sand. And we were, I think, 25 or 30 cars. And we are having a bonfire. But then we switched off all the lights, and then you look up, and there's so many stars. If you look here in the Netherlands and you look up, there's so much light pollution, so you don't see anything. But once you're there, you can see the whole galaxy, and I've never seen so many stars in my life. And again, that's one of those small moments that I thought, this is really why I'm living. This feels like I'm alive. And as I mentioned, it wasn't that I woke up there. I said, I don't want to die anymore. Now I want to live. And these kinds of moments, small moments, makes me really think, I want to live. I have one more example, which is a recent example. Last year, I went to climb the Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. And the first few days is easy. It's just walking up. If you can walk a ladder, you can walk up the Kilimanjaro. But the last day is that you climb the summit. And you wake up at 11:30 at night to start climbing for 6 hours. And it's really slow walking, right? So they call it pole, 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 slow, slow. And it's really step by step by step. And we woke up at 11:30. It was pitch dark. It just had snowed the day before, no snow at all. We woke up and there was, I think, 5 centimeters on our tent. So that also made the climb a lot more difficult. And you can't think about anything. You just think about step by step, because if you do something else, your rhythm of breathing, etc., just disappears. And we were at 4,600 meters, and we had to go up to 5,800 meters. So 1,200 meters we had to do in 6 hours up. It was horrible, and you saw along the way people that they had to stop, they had to go back because they had this height sickness, etc. So they were very pale, they couldn't climb any further. But we went on and we reached the top. And the top is magnificent. And the reason why you leave at 11:30 is because you have the sunrise on the top. And once you're on the top, that's such a beautiful view. And it's an accomplishment because you went on, beyond. And that's when I also realized, yeah, I'm free. This is the life I love. And I started dancing. Whilst other people, they had no breath, I was dancing on top of the Kilimanjaro, really enjoying life. And that's why I said, yeah, those are the times that I think, yeah, I'm alive and this is what I like to do. And that's what I want to tell other people, also with my keynote speaking. Get away from this autopilot. Choose for yourself. You're just surviving, you're not living. And that's what it's all about.
What would you say to a person that is in a dark place or is going to be in a dark place?
It's very difficult because a dark place is for everybody something else, and everybody reacts in a certain way. What I've learned with most people that are in a dark place, they need to get out of their normal situation because it all influences you at that time. Because whatever the reason you're in that dark place is because of your surroundings. So it's either the people, it's your house, it's your work. Get out of that location because that's feeding the demon inside you, which spirals you down, down, down. And that's what I had the same. When I was feeling the moment that I wanted not to live anymore, I asked people, get me out of here, take me somewhere which I don't know, which I've never seen before. And everybody was like, no, just go work, do your studies, concentrate on that, then your feeling will go away. But I think the crucial thing is that people need to step outside of the environment that they are in to experience new things because everything is feeding that monster. And just go out, go walk, go into nature, go to a different country, go talk to new people, go and watch movies that you've never seen before. Happy movies, not other ones. But yeah, do something that will give you energy, positive energy, and get all the negative energy and the drainers out because that will feed you more and more and more. And I'm not saying this is a cure, I'm not a psychologist, etc., but this I feel myself. If I wake up in the morning feeling terrible, I do stuff that I like. I went on a sabbatical, I woke up every day with sunshine. That makes such a big difference. Netherlands is a good country, but weather-wise, not so much.
No, weather-wise. So let's move on to your years at Sony. Mm-hmm. How would you evaluate your experience in such a big corporate? Do you think corporates are different from other types of companies, like medium size or even startups?
Yes, they are for sure, luckily, because corporate is not for everybody. What I felt within corporate is everything is structured very nicely. There's taking care of everything. If you want to move to another position, there's all kinds of opportunities, etc. But there's also a lot of bureaucracy. Everybody needs to do an approval, everybody needs to say something about it. There's so many people that will talk about it. If you're in a meeting, a decision is being slowed down because of the bureaucracy. It has to go over all these levels. They might not trust you, etc. And that's just because it's hierarchical, but also this whole bureaucracy. And of course, there are corporates that are more modern, that were born in this age. However, the bigger you get, the more complex it will get. So it's going to be always that way. If you're in a startup, of course, you have 20 people maybe, or 5 people, or if you're a solopreneur, you're all on your own, and you have to know everything by yourself. You have to figure everything out. There's no processes, there's no systems in place. And with corporates, it's all there. There's a process, there's a system, there are tools there, there's enough money to have that, there's meetings, and there's people that can explain you, etc. But that also takes away a lot of creativity. And in a startup, you have to learn it along the way. You have to start doing things. If you want to do it perfectly, you're going to be too late on the market. So yeah, there's a lot that you can own yourself, but you run into a lot of problems and a lot of challenges. And the bigger you grow as a startup or a mid-sized company, then you need to start thinking, but I need better structures, I need better processes, I need to buy tools, I need to invest. And then you become a bit more corporate, because then you think, maybe I need Microsoft, I need Windows, and maybe Salesforce or other platforms. Now people are looking into the more agile kind of platforms and the new AI platforms, which is also very useful. I use it myself. I use Lovable a lot. I use Claude for almost everything nowadays. But all these corporates, they have so much legal issues with that. When I was trying to implement ChatGPT and AI within Sony, everybody's like, let's use it. But legal and GDPR was like, no, we're not allowed, we need to test. And then they created their own kind of AI tool, but it didn't do what you wanted it to do, because there are so many restrictions. Of course, you have privacy laws, etc. If you have a new implementation of a new model, if it leaks, then the competitor might know what is there. So I understand that it's this difficult, but it also really slows you down as an organization.
So startups are more dynamic than corporates then?
I would say yes. Of course, so this is what I tell people, and I also told my brother. He has his own company, a catering company. It's good to start, I think, at a corporate, so you can learn structure, etc. So if you're really young, then learn the structures for 3 years max or something, and then go start your own company, because then you know certain structures. It also takes away some creativity maybe, so I don't know the best way, right? But this is how I experienced it myself. It's good to know certain things before you start. Some people, like my ex, she was just doing stuff. She also did, she founded 2 companies, and she was like, I don't know it yet, but I'm just going to start. And some of these startups, they go like that. And that's remarkable. But it's also the mentality of the person. So if you're not an entrepreneur yourself, or you don't have any in your network or in your family, then maybe first go corporate, learn stuff, and then go, which is a safe way. And otherwise, just start, just do. Yeah. And that's one of the lessons that I also learned is, I was waiting too long. I was like, but it's not perfect yet, and I need to do this, and I need to make sure that I have all my modules complete, and I need my branding to be complete, and my website to be complete, and everything had to be there. But if you're doing that, you're missing a lot of opportunities already.
What made you not to start before?
One is so there's a few reasons, and these are not the reasons that everybody typically has. One is comfort zone. So after I left Sony, I had many ideas, but I had a very comfortable situation. My costs are very low. I have a lot of money that I can just spare, and I can just relax. And I did my sabbatical, and that sabbatical extended every time that I was in my sabbatical, because the intention was to go to Bali on a one-way ticket and just see what happens, meet new people, see if the nomad lifestyle is something that I would want to explore, etc. And then I traveled for 3 months. I met a lot of new people. I had an amazing time. I went from Bali to different islands in Indonesia. I went to Singapore, Tokyo, Sydney, Tahiti. I did a boat tour through French Polynesia for 9 days, then Bora Bora, New York, and back home. So that was amazing. Now I forgot your question.
What made you, the comfort zone is what made
yes,
you,
that's one is the comfort zone is delay. The second one, is really, I didn't need any money. And 3 is I'm a person, so I'm not a radical entrepreneur. My brother is, so he can have big ups and big downs, and he just goes. He just says, I don't mind, I need to spend the money to invest, etc. And I'm like, but I need at least 20,000 euros on my bank account to feel safe, etc. And that's because I was in corporate all my life. 17 years, stable. Every month I got some money. And that was also a sort of cage that I was in. But that made me very cautious, and also seeing other people fail. I was like, ooh, but I don't want to fail. So I need to have everything's thoughts through. And I wanted everything to be perfect. But now that I'm with a business coach and I am in a network, they call it the inner circle, and that's a place where you talk with a lot of entrepreneurs. I go to network events, and this is where people always say, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody knows what you're doing. I remember when I was organizing events for Sony for 400 people across Europe in one location. They have no idea what is on the agenda, what is coming next, etc. So why does it really matter? People, it's all inside your head, and just do what you want to do. With the timing, if I don't say one word, then people won't notice. It's about how I bring it to the public, and of course there are certain elements that will be dropped and they think, that is what I really needed to hear. But other filler words, etc., they don't care. So just start. So for me, it was always like, it's not perfect yet. And last week, my coach said, put the website live. And I put it live. And yeah, it's not perfect, but it is very good. And that also makes me take down those barriers, right? And the more you learn, the more you do, the less scary it is. I remember an article 2 weeks ago. People don't call each other anymore, really physically with the phone, because we're so used to texting, etc. And people don't really speak to one another over the phone. I had one ex-girlfriend, she called her mom every day, 2 hours. That's too much for me, but people don't do it. Even when I call my parents, we set a time. So we say over WhatsApp, shall we call Sunday at 12 o'clock? And that's how people operate nowadays. We're scared to do things. I was scared to meet new people, go to network events. I'm like, why? These are interesting people, like you're doing right now, getting people to connect each other. There's nothing scary about it. You're same blood as I am. So why would you be scared? And this is what is in a lot of people's minds, right? If it's in a meeting, I don't want to dare to speak up because I'm junior in this position, or maybe when nobody would like my idea or whatever. People are just scared. But what's the risk? Someone say no or whatever. Okay, well, a no you already have, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the third thing for me. I was really perfectionistic and scared. But yeah, I'm over that now. But someone needs to help you.
Nice. Since Sony is a Japanese corporate,
Yes.
do you think is there a difference in the culture with other?
For sure, yeah. So Japanese is very hierarchy driven. They have changed a lot over the years. The thing is, if you're in a corporate, the further you are away from the headquarters, the less impact you will have. When I started in the Benelux, there weren't really Japanese managers locally. When I joined the European headquarters, I think 50% was there Japanese. And they have a really different approach to things. I'm not saying the culture is bad, it's just different. And if you don't know how to communicate well with each other, you will have a lot of misunderstanding and you will have a lot of extra work. So I'll give you an example. I had a manager, Japanese of course, once, and he said, I want this to be done. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that, but how do you want it? Yeah, just do it. And I had to go back 3 or 4 times because he had a certain format in his mind that he wanted it in. And he was every time, no, I want it different. Okay, but just tell me how you want to see it. I can do the analysis, I can do the groundwork, etc. But if you want a pie chart, then tell me you want a pie chart. Or if you just want to see numbers, just tell me you only want to see numbers in a certain way with coloring, etc. And if you don't have those conversations, and this is key within any company, communication. if you don't communicate what you want, if you don't make clear, so clarity is really important, that is very different. So we as Dutch are very upfront and we speak our minds and we are direct. That's what everybody always says. And that helps because we tell you what we want to see, what we want to hear, in the way we want it. And there is this book, The Cultural Map. It's good to read because that also shows you the different approaches between the different cultures. And the culture of Japanese, I really love the Japanese culture because they are like the samurai, right? So they have this sense, they have this tradition, and that comes back in their life, their work, etc. Sometimes a bit too much, like you're not allowed to leave your job before your boss leaves. That's a real Japanese work ethic. It's becoming less and less and less, but I saw that within my team, that my colleague, he was Japanese, and every time he was just sitting there, not really doing anything because he had finished his work. But once his boss and my boss left, then 5 minutes later, he just packed his stuff and went off. And I was asking, but why? Yeah, that's respect, that's how we do it, that's our work ethics. And I said, yeah, but I was done, so I left sometimes 2 or 3 hours earlier. I was like, yeah, but I finished. Of course, I can do more. But yeah, I wanted to have a social life. I wanted to see my friends. I want to go to gym, etc. So there are very different cultural differences, but they have so many good things like ikigai, the sense of the purpose of life. What are you thinking? And that comes also back into in the work environment. So yes, it's a very different culture. It's very hierarchical. You have to fit in. You have to do the politics. And otherwise, yeah, of course you can work there, but don't expect much then. They really respect if you work and work hard. And then you will get to the next level.
Your last position, which was head of sales, right?
It was strategy and planning, which is very broad kind of position. What I did was any new project within the company I was doing with my team. Every year we had a survey, and the survey within the 2,500, 3,000 people within Sony Europe. And from there, I took the new projects. So I read all the comments, I saw what was going well and what was going less. And then I proposed to the management, these are the 5 or 6 topics that we should tackle this year, and we should create a project around it. And then the director said, okay, let's do those, schedule a meeting, do a kickoff, and do the whole project management together with your team. And that was across the whole company. If it was the new budget tools development or implementation of a diversity, equity, inclusion within the organization, or organizing conferences, anything that was beneficial for the internal organization, I was responsible for with my team.
So I understand why one of your entrepreneurs is Operation Detox, since your extensive experience.
Yes.
How would you say that we can have effective meetings and not lose time on them?
There's a lot of things within that. So that's why it takes 6 to 8 weeks to really detox the organization. First is that a lot of meetings are just there because they were there in the past. So what I see a lot in organizations is that someone put a meeting in, but that person left already 2 or 3 years ago, and nobody really knows what the meeting is about, and they just keep doing it because they've always done it that way. It's part of their schedule, it's part of their monthly cycle. So yeah, we keep on doing it. And that's what you see in a lot of corporates. People don't raise the question anymore. Are we doing the correct things? Why are we doing it this way? And that's why my role was so good, and that's why I was so good at it. I always ask that question. Why are we doing it this way? Yeah, because the industry is doing it that way. But is that the most effective way? Yes or no? So that's one of the things. 2 is to understand if the right people are in the room. And that's where I created a document which is saying, okay, what type of meeting is it? How long will it take? Is it going to be online, offline, or is it going to be a hybrid? who is the responsible for it, who needs to be in it, what is the topic that's being discussed, is it going to be a decision-making yes or no, what is the preparation, what is the outcome, what is the action list. So all these items, and one of them is who is in the room. And during COVID, I saw that a lot of meetings moved online and a lot of people are just listening in. So we had a monthly meeting. And everybody, I think at the beginning we were around 120 people on European basis that were in that call when it was physically. And then when it went online, I think it moved to 400 or 500 people. And I said, well, it's nice that people want to listen in, but what are you doing here? Is it just because you want to be updated? Your manager told you to listen in? Because listening in online isn't very effective because you're doing other things online anyway. You're working on your normal day job, etc. And then sometimes you hear something in the background, but is that really effective? Because you're losing your energy, you're losing your concentration. And that's the most crucial part. Who is in the meeting? And do you have a role? If you don't have a role and it doesn't have a benefit, then tell your manager, I'm not going to be in here because I have other work to do, which is more value add. You can always see the notes or the presentation or whatever. If you're really interested in the information, then just look it up. But if you're not there to make a decision or to have some kind of influence, don't go. So that's the biggest thing, I think. The other thing is that a meeting should be more for decisions. If we're doing a meeting, then present something to decide, not to only catch up people that want to know what happened. Because I remember a lot of meetings, I think 60% of the meeting is talking about the past and then 40% talking about the future. But whatever happened in the past, yes, we can learn from it, but we should focus on the future because that is where we can make a difference. So it should be 40-60 instead of 60-40 or even 30% and 70%. And then the question, of course, in what kind of situation are you as a company? So what I've seen a lot is that people concentrate so much on what went wrong and why didn't we deliver. Well, let's give you an example. So in Sony, we sell our products to our customers, the Media Markt, all those Coolblue, Bull, etc. And we do a forecast every month. And there we said, okay, we would sell 100 TVs and we only sold 80. We sold 80. And then there's discussion, why did you only sell 80? And then, competition, pricing, blah, blah, blah. But this goes into so much detail that sometimes we're talking about one piece of a small earphone, which is about €9 per piece. But it's a strategic model, but how much time should you spend on discussing one piece of something that small? So those are items that I think we should skip more within a business, but that's what I was saying. It really depends on which situation you're in at the moment. Mm. So if you have 80% market share, then those discussions you don't need to have. But if you only have 1% market share or 2% market share, then of course it becomes a lot more relevant. Why is it happening? Why are we only selling one piece whilst the competitor is selling 99 pieces? And then you can have the conversation. So it's not about the conversation, why did you only sell one piece? It's about what is happening in the market. Where are we within Media Markt? And this is where Sony was very great. They really went into the detail when it went wrong. And they were looking at selection, location, condition, which means where in the store are we? Is the condition of the product good enough? How is it displayed? Is the pricing correct? Is the marketing correct? Etc. And this is where I think you should focus once you're in that situation. But if you have 80% market share, don't care about that. Care about the bulk, care about keeping momentum and growing. So then you should look into more the future, etc.
How can we structure teams that are run efficiently?
Good question. I think it starts with culture and clarity. if you have a good culture, people would speak up. They do their job correctly. If it's clear what the message is, what the company should do, what the culture is, what the direction is, I think that helps a lot. What also helps is that psychological safety within the company, because people feel at ease to be able to challenge the director or challenge your manager or speak up wherever you have. And you have all these different gaps, right? You have the gaps in age, you have the gaps in culture, you have the gaps in gender, and all these different gaps also have a kind of issue because people don't feel they can speak up. For example, in meetings, you always see that the younger people, normally they speak up, but once they're in a very traditional organization and a hierarchy organization, where people, especially a certain level, they have an influence, they don't give the room for these kinds of people. I'm saying that wrong. It's not kinds of people. People in general, right? If you are a different culture, if you're younger, and I saw that a lot, that the younger generation, they didn't dare speak up because they were spoken down to, etc. And that is in a lot of different organizations, right? I see that with governmental organizations. I see that in smaller startups, etc. And it's everywhere. So you have a lot of different gaps. So what really makes it easier and efficient is clarity, a good culture, and there was one more thing that I was thinking of, is that communication. So if there's a real clear communication of what we want in life and what we are doing, and there's open communication and you don't have too many tools to communicate in because you're searching every time, then that is another element which makes it a lot clearer and operational efficient.
What's the approach to select the tools for a company?
Very difficult because if you're talking again with corporate, they already have contracts in place, right? So normally big corporates, they have a connection with a Salesforce or a Microsoft, etc. And if they have a contract with them, it's logical to take all the tools that they have. So let's say Microsoft. If you then have Microsoft, of course you have Excel, PowerPoint, and those types of tools. Then you have Teams, which is connected to it, so you won't take Slack, as an example. And you'll have Power BI instead of a different kind of visualization tool, because you're restricted to whatever corporate has in their contract. And those contracts are very expensive, and the tools don't communicate very clearly with each other. If you go into startups, they're more of the newer kind of tools. So they're looking into what really does help me and can communicate with the other tools. Because you don't have one ecosystem anymore, which is called Microsoft. You have other kinds of tools that either you've created. So let's have a look at Amazon. Amazon creates everything themselves. They don't have an SAP ERP system because they created it themselves. They don't have a supply chain system because they have engineers in Seattle just creating it for them. The difficulty there is, of course, that if that engineer leaves and something blows up, a new engineer has to re-engineer the problem. So there's pros and cons in the tool stack. But what I do is I come into the organization, I look at the tools, and there are a lot of tools that are not being used, but they pay for. So that's one. Two is that they have, then you have the tool stack with the communication part, is that the communication between the tools and between the meetings and etc., they use WhatsApp, they use email, they use Excels, they use Teams, they use SharePoint, they use so many different ways to communicate whatever is being done. And then people get lost because where did we store it? Did we store it on SharePoint? Did we store it in the Teams? Or was it sent via email? And this is where a lot can be more efficient if you just choose, when you do meetings, this is the tool to use, where we store everything, etc. So the tool stack really depends on what kind of organization are you, what is allowed within the organization, And are you open to change? But also, are you open to reduce and stop things? Because a lot of people will be like, but I love that tool so much. Yes, I understand. But now you have 5 tools. You don't know where to find it. And we have to reduce because that can save significantly as well. Because it costs a lot, all these users. You have subscription forms, etc. I myself have ChatGPT, I have Claude, I have Perplexity, I have Gmail, which I pay for an account, I have Lovable, I have Whisper, and all these are strategically taken because I need them to do my business, and they can help each other out as well. But I can also choose, I have an Apple, but I can also go for a Microsoft and have everything from Microsoft. But then you're limited. They always say Apple is very limited. It is. It's a safer environment. But if you use Microsoft, it's also limited because you cannot go outside of the Microsoft 365, right? So it really depends on, where are you in your mind? And I think a lot of companies are scared for new things, and that's why a role as mine within the company or as a consultant, I think is very valuable because they can teach you new kind of things because you're doing everything on a traditional way because we do it this way, but nobody challenges it, and you don't know what the impact could be. It could be very positive, both in operational efficiency, but also for your P&L, right? So you can reduce a lot of costs, time, and get back value add for this. So yes, tool stack is a very important thing.
What's the role of AI in organizations?
Yes, that's a difficult question because this is my interpretation, right? So for me, AI can help the individual. Will it replace some certain functions in the end, eventually? I do think so. But currently, if you don't use AI, you're already a bit behind because it can make you so much more effective. I write a lot of emails. I get things done with my agents in place that I don't have to look at myself anymore. Brainstorming becomes a lot easier. I created a brainstorm session 2 days ago, and now I created a game for my operational detox and for the keynote speaking where I have some intellectual property, which I call Speak Up Gym. And this is where psychological safety is being practiced. And with this game, it's a sort of truth or dare system. And it takes everybody to the next level because you have a lot on your mind, but you don't speak it. And these cards, they just ask a question. And then there's a truth card, and then there's a dare card, a commit or a confess. And those just says some random questions about your work situation, both for meetings or for all the modules that I do, but also for psychological safety. And then there's 3 different options. There's one, this truth or dare. There's one more group discussion. So there's a card that says a certain thing, and then people are going to say, but I think it's this way, I think that way. And then at the end, the leader says, okay, do we agree? It's going to be this way from now onwards because we tackled the problem. And the last one is more the psychological safety where it's about truth latency. And truth latency is around how long does it take before the truth really comes up? And a lot of people, they just don't dare to tell the truth. That a decision that has been made is the wrong one because of X, Y, Z. And people think, but he's the manager, he's the guru, he would know, so what do I have to say? And these cards will bring it onto the table and say, okay, now really say what you think. So AI helped me a lot. So back to your question. Yes, I think AI will help organizations a lot in operational efficiency. It can replace a lot of things. A lot of meetings that I have nowadays, I have an app which is called Whisper Flow, and that just records the whole session, and it can create the notes for you. If you have a certain format, you can load it into that, and then it just creates your whole action list. You don't need a secretary to sit into the meetings anymore. No, this is so great that it just reduces so much time. And if you know how to communicate with a tool like that, then you don't need to really check it anymore. They are so good. And I use this with my brother. When we have meetings around brainstorming for his company, we have 3 other entrepreneurs that are helping my brother to scale his business. And I just put it on my phone. And then afterwards, it just creates the whole notes and the action list, and I send it through. And I don't really have to look at it anymore. Maybe the action list did everything get in there. But yeah, it helps so much. And there's so many AI tools. My whole website was built by Lovable. I was amazed how this could help entrepreneurs. I did the same for my brother, but I outsourced that, and that cost him, I think, now in total 2,000 or 3,000 euros. For me, it was a subscription of 25 euros with Lovable, and within a week, the base was there. And now, a month later, I have it live. And for 25 euros, right? So if it took me 2 months, it would be 50 euros. But it's all there. There's a web shop there. There's a lead generation. There's a free diagnostic scan that people can do. And it's all in my brand. And if I need a tweak, it's done like that. I don't need to send it to a help desk or to a developer or whatever. It's done instantly. So yes, AI, especially for entrepreneurs, it can help you a lot. For corporates, it's more difficult because they have all these firewalls, legal restrictions, etc. It needs to be tested, it needs to be checked, etc. So it's a little bit more difficult to implement, but once you've implemented, it can help a lot. And I'm not saying you have to reduce people, but you can take back time that they can do more value add. That's what I was doing in my last role in Sony as well, looking to make things more simple so people can do their real job. Instead of in marketing creating presentations, then really go into the market, see what your competitor does, because presentations you can build with Gamma, you can build with Lovable, you can build with Canva. It's all a push of the button. Once you've done your skill in there, you can create it now with Claude even. If you do your skill and your branding there, then you just have to input what you want to say, and within 5 minutes, your presentation is there, which would take normal a few hours for people in a corporate. So yes, I really believe that AI can help and give back time to really get into competition. So really look into where can I grow as a business, what can I do as value add, etc. Yeah.
How do you maintain your employees happy or maybe out of the state of autopilot, although maybe this might not be the same thing?
So, good question. That's difficult because every generation has a different kind of approach. The older generation, like the millennials, the boomers, they really need something different than the Gen Z. Gen Z wants flexibility, they want to be trusted, they want to work from home. I don't think all these social events really helps. It's a nice perk, but does it really deliver someone being happy in their position? No. I think 2 things that really help is 1, right person, right place. So are you really doing the job that you love? If you do the job that you love, then you'll do it with passion and you'll do it correct. I've seen so many people in the wrong position. For example, a person in my team when I was in Sony, when the role started, he was good at it and he liked it. I wasn't the manager at that time, but the role, because things change, right? The world changes and the roles also change, was becoming more a data analyst role. And he tried, but he didn't like it. And I had many conversations with him and I didn't want to fire him, but I wanted to find a better solution for him. So we found a role that was a much better fit for this person. And then he was happy and you saw him also grow as a person, but also into that role. So that's 1. Really, what is your purpose in life? What is your passion? Are you in the right position? So if that is done correctly, then yes, you will have a lot more value add and you will try to get out of autopilot, but I'll get back to that one. The second one is that you you empower and you give positive feedback, or feedback at all. Because a lot of people are scared to give feedback that helps the person. So it's nice to do a pat on the shoulder, which is not being done enough. I think we always skip the good things. So that is one of the real enforcers. But the second thing is to help people progress in their career. And this can be done in all different kinds of ways. But for me, I think it's just having the conversation, not in a meeting room or whatever. Just go for a walk, ask the person genuinely, how are you feeling? What are you doing? What are your struggles currently, both in life and in work? Because if they're happy at home, they might be happier at work. Or if they're happy at work, they might be happier at home. So have those real conversations, not only about KPIs, etc. Just get to learn the people that work for you or you work with and try to help them out. Same as you're doing, the whole connecting people with each other. You're a dating service for professionals, right? So you're trying to get people to get connected to help each other out, to make them grow as a person in their company, getting networks together. That's the same that you should do in a business, right? You should just have a collaboration. I'm not your boss. No, we're colleagues. And if you're doing well, I'm doing well. If you're happy, I'm happy. And if I'm happy, he's happy. And if he's happy, the company's happy. If the company's happy, maybe we do better products. If the better products, we get better margin. If there's better margin, then we have our investors better. And then our shares grow. And then we can do another raise, etc. So it's the whole cycle about this happy. And then coming to Autopilot. So those are the two things I think is very important. The right person in the right place and people being happy in their environment, but being really social to each other. Autopilot, that is something that a company cannot take away from you. That's something you have to search in yourself. So if you do everything the same day, it's like driving home. If you drive home from work, you don't realize that you are already home. You forgot the whole drive to your house because you do it every day. You know it almost blindly how to drive. Or let's take an example of the mornings. You do your rituals every morning. And lately I'm thinking a lot more in the shower, and I realize that my autopilot in the shower is off. I forget, normally I do first do my hair, then wash my body. Now I washed my body and I forgot, did I do my hair already? Yes or no? So this is all about autopilot. Break free from it because, okay, sometimes it's very useful to do autopilot. But if you answer questions on autopilot, etc., then yeah, that's ridiculous. So break free from that. Challenge yourself, challenge people, challenge systems. As I said, a meeting that's been done 2 years the same way and the person who created the meeting isn't here anymore. Why are we doing the meeting? What's the outcome? Is it just to meet? So that's all about autopilot. And it only comes from you as a person for in life or at work. Nobody else will do it. And not everybody can see it as well.
What challenges do you have right now as a business entrepreneur?
Yes, as entrepreneur, I think as the start, my biggest challenge is to get customers. One, customers for the Ops Detox, and two, coming on stage for my keynotes, etc. I think once you are known in the world, people recognize your talents, they know who to go to, etc., then the business will flow. But your initial one to get those first customers, that for me is very difficult. Of course, you can throw a lot of money against it and you can get on LinkedIn all sorts of leads, etc. You have to invest a lot of time and energy. And that's how the most people do it. And I think that works, but it also just drains you energy-wise, money-wise, etc. for something that isn't really necessary. And this is where I think, and that's why I'm sitting here as well, I'm doing a network events, is it comes from your network. People know you, they trust you. I did my keynote yesterday for a group of entrepreneurs and they were like, Oscar, this story, this keynote, what you're saying, this is relevant to anybody in the world. Why don't they know about you yet? Why don't you visualize it on Instagram, on YouTube, on LinkedIn? If people hear you talk, they want you on the spot. You don't need to sell yourself. You are sold. And that's why I think these kinds of connections are also so valuable. You don't need to invest a lot in money. You need to invest in relations. And that's what you do. You connect the people with each other. You help each other out. And that's what I think is good for entrepreneurs. That's what this lab is also about. It's connecting people and making sure they get into the right room and they get around to the right connections. Amazing. So yes, my most difficult part is the sales, which I think should go by itself, but people need to be visible.
Understood. And you gave a lot of lessons in this interview, but any main lesson that you would like to leave to all the viewers here?
Yes. Well, the lesson I learned is be happy. Don't care about what anybody says, not your parents, whatever. If you fail in life, you can always go back. So yes, I'm now going into entrepreneurship, but if I don't succeed, which I don't think it won't, I will succeed for sure. But if not, then I can come back. I can work for somebody else. I can work at the Albert Heijn. If you need money, you can always work. If you travel to another country because you want to live in Sydney, go to Sydney. If it doesn't work out, come back. There's always a way to come back. So yeah, for me, what I learned in the last year of this sabbatical and my entrepreneurship, enjoy life. You only have one. Someone once said it, Ollie, one life, live it.
Ollie.
Ollie, O-L-L-I. One life, live it. Yeah, I really like that one. And don't wait until till pension, because there's so much beauty around.
Amazing. And as a last thing, I leave you the camera to ask for any connection.
Oh, yes. Well, you know my story. You've heard everything. I think there's two parts of my story. One is the operational detox, and the other one is the keynote speaking. I'm very passionate about the keynote speaking, sharing my story, sharing my life. And I would love people to reach out for any stage, if it's for 20 people, for 500 people, for 5,000 people, whatever. If you're different kinds of organizations, if you're a corporate, but maybe you're working at the police or you're in a university and you think it's necessary there, just call me and I'll show up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Oscar. It was a magnificent interview.
Thank you so much.
That was it.